Look at this question. There was a question like this. What is a true and false question? What is logical at micro level may be logical at macro level. Say whether it's true or false. Any guesses? Well, it's false because, well, this is because of these two concepts, fallacy of composition and the paradox of thrift. Now, the concept that what is true at the micro level may not be true at the macro level is a fundamental idea in economics known as the fallacy of composition. That's what is fallacy of composition. So once again, let me just tell you that fallacy of composition is a logical error that occurs when one assumes that a property or characteristic of a part of something is also true for the whole. In other words, it's a mistake of inferring that something is true for the entire system or group based on the characteristic of its individual individual components. Right? Now, this principle suggests, again, let me repeat myself, that the assumptions or truths that hold for individual units in economics, let's call them micro level, may not necessarily apply when aggregated to a larger group or economy, that is macro level. So this can be explained with the help of an example. Let's just take savings. Now, when you're taking savings at the micro level, what do you see? It is when an individual increases their saving, it generally leads to a positive outcome for that person, right? Now, what happens with savings? You have a sense of increased security, financial security, which means saving for that individual means more money that can provide an individual with a financial cushion, enabling them to handle unexpected expenses or plan for future goals like retirement. So you're happy about it, happy about your savings. Now, regarding investment opportunities, more savings can lead to more investments, potentially increasing the individual's wealth over time. But if you talk about the collective savings, or you're talking about macro level, that means economic wide perspective. If you see, then suppose if everyone in an economy increases their savings simultaneously, what will happen? The aggregate effect can be different, and sometimes the it won't be for the good of the economy. This is known as the paradox of thrift. So this is what is the paradox of thrift, and this was described by the economist John Maynard Keynes. Now, what will happen if everybody? What is this paradox of thrift? So everybody is going to be thrifty, nobody is spending. So what happens? Their demand will come down. The aggregate demand in the economy is going to come down. If everyone starts saving more and consuming less, aggregate demand for goods and services will come down. This can lead to a reduced sales for businesses, potentially resulting in low production, layoffs, and economic slowdown. And then what happens? Again, it can lead to recession. That means there'll be a contraction in the economy. In extreme cases, a significant increase in savings across the economy will lead to recession. Lower consumption means business earn less revenue, which can lead to reduced investment, lower employment, and decreased economic growth. So let me go through the business cycle. What do you see? It's going to come back. There's going to be a recession. Why? Because if there's the aggregate savings in an economy goes up, then what happens? The demand will come down. Aggregate demand is going to be pushed down. Then it will lead to decrease in investment, which again, so if production comes down, there'll be less of employment, and it'll go on to less economic growth. And That's what that'll be an extreme case, of course, that the paradox of thrift in this case, that it will lead to contraction in the economy. So why is the difference now? If you see, the key reason for this discrepancy between micro and macro perspective is the interconnectedness of economic activities. While an individual's savings might benefit them personally, but at a macro level, because of the paradox of thrift, it's going to affect the aggregate demand. It'll be a dominoes effect, and the economy will be pushed into recession. So once again, it will benefit them personally, but the collective behavior of saving more and spending less can have adverse effects on the broader economy due to reduced demand and economic activity. Let's take wages. Now, talking about wages, if one worker accepts a lower wage, they might become more competitive for jobs. However, if all workers accept lower wages, it could lead to reduced consumer spending power and potentially harm the economy. We don't think about that. So what about debt? If an individual paying down debt might be beneficial, but if everyone reduces spending to pay down debt simultaneously, it can lead to a decrease in aggregate demand and economic activity. So everything is about aggregate demand. So, okay. So the relationship between micro and macro levels in economics is complex. So we're coming back to the question, that is, what holds true for individuals may not necessarily apply to the economy as a whole. Understanding this distinction is crucial for both personal financial decision making and broader economic policy making. So that's it. The fallacy of composition and the paradox of thrift. That's what we talked about.